I did say I would make a second video of this if this got any views whatsoever. So, here goes. And I said I would talk about my history. Well, here goes as well. My first life, if I didn't already say it in the first video, was in the human year 300. But, in a sense, that is kind of a lie. Well, in my human body, that's not a lie, but I'm not originally human. I am from a world far from this one. The place I am from, the world itself, is simply called the Forgotten World, or some people have taken to call it the Forbidden World. Anywho, in that world, there are 3 gods. And I can say their names, because it's not going to do anything. The 3 gods' names are, well, let me say the main one first. The main god's name, his name is Icelis, the god of creation and life. The second god, Immortal, the god of destruction and change. The third god, Indomus, the god of death and decay. Everything. But I had one ability that I liked, above all. Pretty much, I'm just gonna call it language magic. It lets me understand any type of language. Yes, the caveman language was a language, even though that didn't make sense. But I could understand them, and I could speak to them too. But when I first introduced myself to them, well, I tried to. They tried to kill me because they thought I was an enemy. But afterwards, me and my brother, left them alone, and we went flying around the planet to pretty much just see how it was coming along. Dinosaurs, that kind of stuff. They were kind of cool. I like the Triceratops the best. But it was kind of sad because with life comes death. Anywho, I'm kind of getting off topic because I said I would talk about my history. So, here goes. And I apologize in advance because I get sidetracked very often. But here goes. Human world-wise, I was born in the human year 300. My father, Ecellus, which I didn't know then, him and my mother, obviously, my mother gave birth, and it was me. My father told me my mother died shortly after I was born, so he disposed of her body. But later I found out that was a lie. But before then, a couple years pass, and I turn 4, the night before I turned 4. My father woke me up on a night when it was pouring and there was a lightning storm going on. And he said, "I'm going to leave." And I asked him why. And all he said was, "Because you can't..." He said, "You can't do anything you want if I'm in your way, stopping you." So, he said, "I'm going to leave, and you're going to have to take care of yourself from now on." And I said, "Okay, fine." I fell back to sleep, woke up in the morning, and he was gone. And pretty much until I turned 10, I lived in the forest where I was born, in this little shack, in this little house in the forest. And I could still use magic, but as young as I was, 4 years old, one of the skills was gate teleportation, or portal teleportation. I just called it gate teleportation. But I would teleport to the city and put the symbol on the gate outside, and then I would, teleport to the city, put the sigil or a symbol, walk in, do shopping, whatever, and then I would go shop for supplies and stuff, mainly food, like grain, carrots, lettuce, potatoes, rice especially, and I would take stuff I can plant, such as seeds and stuff, and I would pay for it, go back to the gate, go home, plant it, sleep, go back to the store, or go back to the city. I would keep doing that over and over and over again for several years. But when I was 7, I went to the city the same way I did, and I popped out of my gate. But before I walked in, somebody caught me and said, I'm just going to clarify, magic is not illegal back then, but anybody that's caught using it, this is kind of stupid, will be charged a fine. I believe it was 10 silver, because there was copper, silver, gold back then, and platinum was only for kings. But so I was caught, but since the money I had was just enough for the food and stuff I needed, I used one of my other skills, temporary paralysis. I paralyzed the guy, or the guard, ran into the city, got the stuff, came back out. He was still paralyzed, went back in, went to my house. I erased the sigil, went back in my house, because he couldn't use it anyway. Back in my house, did the stuff, gathered up my supplies, because I knew the guards were going to try to find me, and pretty much got all my stuff ready to go. This video is going to be a little longer than the normal ones, than the other 10-minute one, but it doesn't matter. So, got all my stuff ready, and within a few hours of getting stuff ready, I could hear voices in the distance saying, "I think I see the house." So I thought it was the guards from earlier. So I had all my stuff ready, put on my pack that I had, got all the stuff ready, and I set fire to the house. I made sure I grabbed everything that was necessary. The grain, rice, vegetables, seeds, everything. And of course my sword. And put it on, and I stepped out of the house. The house was already smoking, and it wasn't the guards from the city. It was bandits. I had a feeling that they were the ones following me, but I could never be too sure, because when I would always try to find them, they would vanish. And I could tell because of my sense of smell. There was 4 bandits in front of me. There were 2 in the trees behind me. And the leader, I guess you could say, was further back, sitting on his little cart. And the guys came at me and they said, "Give me all your food and everything else you have, and then we'll let you go." I just said a single word: "No." And then I felt the leader smile. Even though he didn't get up, I felt him smile, even though I couldn't see him. And then the 4 guys that were in front of me charged at me. I drew my sword, which this was the only thing of my father's that he left with me. He called it a meteorite blade. So I took on the nickname of the sword, Meteor Blade. So it was black, pure black, and it had a weird insignia on the kind of near the hilt of the blade, but still on the blade, maybe about, say, the length of a pencil, the number 2 pencil, about half the length of that, and there was a sigil on it. And whenever I released the magic within me, the sword came alight, and it was surrounded by fire. Well, not surrounded by fire, more like the blade of the sword on both sides was orange. And when I tried to cut something, it would slice, but that slice would immediately catch on fire. And the leader immediately said, "Be careful, he can use magic." The 4 guys in front of me said, "Don't worry, boss, we can use magic too." And the guy that was coming at me, he whipped out a sigil stone, which were kind of rare, but it was a water sigil stone. He thought because I had a fire sword and he had a water sigil that he could beat me, but he couldn't. So they started to attack me. Since I didn't want to kill them, I just wanted them to get out of my way. I pretty much knocked 2 of the guys out. I cut one of their arms pretty bad. And the 4th guy, since he kept coming at me, I broke his sigil, his rock sigil, and I stabbed him in the chest, pulled my sword out, and immediately the inside of him started to cook. And he started screaming bloody murder. And then the 2 behind me jumped out of the trees. I couldn't see them, but I could hear them. And as soon as they jumped, I swiped my sword up and cut them both in half. They died instantly. Leader stood up, dashed at me using, there's a show called Bleach, and it's called Flash Step. Back then it was called Flash Step as well. So he flash stepped at me. I caught his spear by the blade, and I broke it. And I looked at him as a 7-year-old. I said, And my eyes glowed for a split second, and I said, "Do not ever come after me again, or I will kill you." And then I whacked him on the head with my sword and knocked him out. Then I took what money he had, and I left. I guess I will end it for now. Again, if this video gets any views, I'll make a third one. Okay. Peace.